Get ready to lead with heart, authenticity, and a dash of daring. Hey there, leaders and changemakers. Welcome to the Heart of Leadership podcast, where we dive deep into the soul of leadership. I'm Kip, your guide on this journey of blending human-centered leadership, behavioral science, and strategy, all to help you tackle your toughest challenges. You excited? Yeah, me too. So let's dive in.
So the question is, what role does emotional intelligence play in leadership, and how can I improve mine?
Right. What role does emotional intelligence play in leadership? Like the most massive role of it all? I mean, it's one of those, we joke and I'm making light of it for a little. I'm not trying to make it light of it, but that's what we're all about, right? Like we teach people how that works. So, and the reason being, it premises off a little bit what we were talking about, is that you're leading humans, and how we operate is all based on emotions first, right? So every single thing, every single task, every single, thought that we have stems from an emotion, right, in the beginning, or turns into an emotion after we have it. Like it's all connected, right? So if you're managing people, if you're leading people, you're essentially leading emotions. So you have to be able to connect with your, emotional intelligence, with the feelings of those on your teams, with all of that stuff, and then do that dance. And it is a dance. It's not a cut and dried situation where, A equals B equals C, that kind of thing. It's an adventure. So, the other thing, so I guess the question is like, what can I do about that? There's so many resources, there's so many tools, there's so many tricks and ways to enhance your emotional intelligence. And it comes down to, for us, like it's part of the foundation that we teach, right? In order to truly enhance your emotional intelligence, you've got to start digging in and knowing yourself.
Yeah.
You got to do a deep dive in and knowing who you are as a human being, knowing who you are as a leader, and all those kind of things. And we have a ton of resources and things like that we give our clients. But really what it is it's so much more than going and doing your, those personality profile tests, or like, even like, I'm a, your horoscope, I'm a Virgo, and that kind of stuff. It's those are great. Don't get me wrong. They're good. They teach you to ask questions, but you need to dive into the core of why you do what you do. What are the emotions behind that? And how does that reflect on the people that you're working with? Right. So that's the first thing you have to do. You've got to dive into yourself, and you got to know yourself on a really deep level. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to know your people. You've got to know your people on that same depth and level. And this is one that a lot of people struggle with, because it's been, it's been thought and taught and that kind of stuff, that, you don't want to get close with your people, right? You don't want to get too close. You don't want to become best friends with the people that you work with and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
there's that
and that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. And I get that. Like, I get that there is some, it's challenging, right? But essentially the most highly functional teams, the most elite teams, you're going to find that they have not just a caring for each other, not just a knowing for each other. There's a deep love there within those teams for the people that are on those teams. And, again, we get a lot of pushback with our clients, everybody that I've ever met with that's worked with this right away. They're like, well, there's some people on the team I don't even like, and I didn't hire these people, and I don't want to know them that deeply, and, and that kind of side. And I'm like, I get that. But you have to understand that if you want to take your team to an elite level, you have to know what makes them tick. And I don't just mean mentally, I mean emotionally. What drives them? What pushes them? What motivates them? What gets them fired up? What are they afraid of? What are they into outside of work? Let's be honest. A lot of the times we're not completely driven by what it is that we do at work. We're putting in some hours, we're putting in the reps to go do the stuff we do outside of work, right? That's normal, but we also have to realize that. And so what is outside of work? What are you into? How can I get to a point where maybe I'm not, I'm not saying go be their best friend. I'm saying get to know them deeply so
Yeah.
that you can use that information to help them grow and be better. That's the kind of information, right? And you'll find the more and more information you find like that, you're going to find that you have a deeper respect for them. You're going to find that you have more trust within them and then them with you. And it goes back and forth, right? So that's a big piece of the emotional intelligence. And I'm going to stop it there. I think basically, if people can just wrap their heads around and their hearts around doing those two things, which is a huge amount, don't get me wrong, but you get into that and start doing that, you're going to start learning some of the other things that you can do to help grow that skill, that muscle, and again, the strategies, the tips, the tricks, all those kind of things, they'll come
Yeah.
as part of that. But really, know yourself, know your people, right? Get to know them really, really well, and take the time to do that. Don't just have it as an idle thing. We need to schedule time to make that happen. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
Totally. Well, and I love the framework that we teach too, like the know yourself, know your people, because it's just even in life, outside of work, outside of careers, outside of leadership, for connection to happen, you have to know what you want, what you like, who you want to be around. And for some of us, we know very surface level, oh, that person's annoying, I don't want to hang out with that person. For a lot of people, that's as deep as it goes. But if you want to actually lead people, you can't lead them by motivating them, because we're not really motivated by much outside of ourselves. We're not. Like, even money for a lot of people is not motivating enough, because if people can figure out how to get money without doing anything for it, tell you what, even me, if I can get money for free, I'd be the first in line. So money's not really motivating to make you want to do anything.
No,
So
it never is the true motivator in really
no.
anything. It's kind of a byproduct, right?
Yeah. And even if you want to say even status, a lot of people want status. They want that title, that CEO, executive, this, whatever. They want those titles. But if you really talk to somebody who seems to be motivated by money or status, and if you actually talk to them, you'll realize that that's actually not what's motivating. That's the byproduct of what they're being motivated for. And sometimes it's in a positive direction. So sometimes they're motivated for those things because it feels fulfilling, makes them proud of themselves, gives them that sense of pride and accomplishment. And then there's other people who are trying to prove themselves to other people, trying to avoid being, some disaster that they have to do it to make themselves feel good about themselves. So there's both sides of the spectrum of that too. And so what I think is really important when the know yourself, know your people framework comes into play, and why it works so well, is because if you understand what you're motivated by intrinsically, so that's the motivation from inside, and you know how to bring that out in yourself, and you can practice that, then it's easier to apply that to other people. And it also gives you the framework to be able to look at people differently. So yes, that
Yeah.
person on your team might be super annoying, but can you see beyond that? Can you see beyond the annoying habit or the annoying traits that they have that are all superficial, and look at the quality of work they produce? Look at the interactions. Maybe they're the most inspirational person on your team to their teammates. And so if that's the case, that's the person that you want to get to know and to help improve in quality of work and quality even of teammanship, because then they're going to help support the team to move it forwards.
Yeah. It's really cool. And I was working with a client a little while back, and we were introducing the concept of one-on-one meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and breaking those down and getting into them. And we have a very different. It's not very different. It's a structure. It is a different way of doing one-on-ones, and the purpose on them and behind them. And it's very centered on that emotional intelligence, understanding your people on a deeper level, and stuff like that. And they had a team member that they were struggling with, and this person was having a hard time with a certain aspect of his role, and all the training wasn't helping, and all of the just the guidance wasn't getting there, and there was a lot of frustration behind this piece, and I'll explain a little more. But what happened was is that during um, the one-on-ones, the way that we were implementing the new way, uh, your whole job is to really listen to what's going on, and get the feedback from the person, and in the structured they spent 20 minutes once a week with that person, just getting feedback from them and learning and asking deep questions and coaching, coaching type questions. And what they discovered was is that this person had never disclosed to them, through their own embarrassment and insecurity about the thing, is that they had dyscalculia. I think that's how you say it. So dyslexia with numbers.
With numbers, yeah, where
And
you mix them up.
yeah, they mix them up and they see them backwards. I have that. I didn't even realize it had a term. I was just kind of lumped it in with my dyslexia. But so when they were telling me about it, I was like, yeah, I kind of lead with that. And they were like, no, this person didn't feel comfortable saying that. And I only got it out of them because I was starting to ask them questions about something else that they were doing that they were having trouble with. And I think it was something like bowling. Like they were going bowling and they were trying, they're putting the numbers in. They kept putting in the numbers up, and it was really funny, and everybody was joking, and they kind of felt bad about it. And then they were like, well, why did you keep, like, did you have too much to drink, or what was the deal? And he's like, well, no, I don't see numbers the same way. I've always had a hard time with that. And then the coach was like, why do I have this person doing all of the spreadsheets for this program that they're doing, right? Like, and she clued in. Now, he wasn't comfortable enough to say that. He wasn't
Right.
comfortable to step up and say, like, I can't do this as well. I'm struggling with this because of
Yeah.
this thing. That was really hard for that person to say. And, so the leader was missing it, right? And instead of, this person is also amazing on the sales calls and amazing like face to face, right? And so instead of, saying, oh, well, how do I get this person to go more face to face? Because that's what they're really awesome with. And maybe I can
Mhm.
shift the whole reporting part to somebody else who really loves it. They again went back, looked through their people matrix, and we're like, okay, this and this person doesn't love the face to face, but loves the reporting. We're going to partner them up, right? So that one does the face to face and one does the reporting. Now that switched up how they did work and that kind of thing within their organization, but they got approval for it. They switched it up. They did it. And of course, the numbers were like, their sales numbers went up. The reporting didn't have the mistakes, and all those kind of things. And these are things where like, well, duh, yeah, that just makes sense, right? But how deeply do you know your people, right?
Right.
How, are you harping on a problem? Are you getting them trying to fix something that maybe they're just not good at that? And that's okay. Like, not everybody's not good at everything, but what are they amazing at? Can we put them into that and keep them going on that, and then take the things that they may be deficient in and that they're never gonna be awesome at, and can we have somebody else do that, right?
Mhm.
Like thinking out of the box, doing all that kind of stuff. um, it showed incredible ROI, but it stemmed from taking that time to really dig in and ask questions and
Yeah.
dig in there.
Well, and it makes perfect sense because when we're at work, often because of that hierarchy thing, often there is that little bit of the closed offness and the hierarchy and the sense of, oh, well, I can't approach my manager because of an emotional thing, or
Yeah.
because of I don't want them to fire me because I'm not good at that thing, so I need to pretend that I'm good at that, or I need to get good at it, or I need to hide my inability to do it the way that they want me to do it. And so that creates a lot of tension right there. And so when you actually open the door of conversation, and it's not even okay, let's be best friends sort of thing. It's really just we're human to human working together. And a leader is really somebody to help guide a group of people to a common goal. That's it.
Yeah.
But we have like this hierarchy system where that because they have that ranking, that all of a sudden they're untouchable, and like we have to stay here as our minions with ourselves. But as soon as you open up the door to like, no, like let's have a relationship, let's have a conversation, we're working, doing something for the same outcome so that we're all successful. why wouldn't we want to work together? And it's no different than a soccer team, football team, baseball team. It's all the same. You're doing your thing. You have your part. Everybody has the position that they play, but if you're not working together, then the whole thing falls apart or just doesn't function properly. So I love that. I love the framework that we talk about and that we teach is like know yourself, super important, awareness of self, and then transferring that. So okay, now I'm confident in my emotions that I can self-regulate when someone else is having emotions, and I can actually now be the inspiration for my team members to help them move through that, and then inspire them to keep moving forwards.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of the, like, I would say, like, if you're going to take a takeaway from this is like something that you could start doing, beyond like, yeah, dive in, know yourself, know your people. The other two are know your purpose, right? And
Mm.
then know your path. We'll talk about those later. But I would say a key takeaway in that emotional intelligence thing is one thing. I was like, if you've got one question to ask and make sure people answer it, and I'll explain that in a second, is that, how do you feel about that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Super powerful, super easy question. And this is what I mean by like, and make sure they answer that, is because we were at I was at a big senior leadership conference, and I was working with the CEO, and I said to her, I was like, when they are talking to you and their questions and that kind of thing at the end, I want you to ask, how do you feel about that? And I want you to make sure that's what they answer. And we worked through some examples and stuff like that. So sure enough, she got on stage and she said, our numbers are, I can't remember the exact question, but it was something to the point of like, you know, you, we have to hit these numbers and it's going to be a big challenge and you're going to take this away from your team. And then, everybody was nodding and he said, okay, now how do you feel about that? And it was directly to a person. And this person said, well, I think that we'll be able to hit those numbers. And, I think that that's an achievable goal. And she kind of looked over at me as like, just a little bit like, was that the right answer? Because I don't think it is. Right. And I was like, no, keep going, keep going. She said, okay, that's great. Thank you for that. But how do you feel about it? And the gentleman that was there paused and really struggled, because all of a sudden he had to shift his brain into like explaining his feelings. And then
Yeah.
two, explaining them in front of a large group of people, which was kind of putting him on the spot. She chose him because she knew he would go for it. Like, and
Yeah.
he wasn't going to cause trauma, right? But it would challenge. And he stopped and he was like, I feel overwhelmed and I feel worried. And she's like, okay, that's amazing. She goes, I would as well. I would feel overwhelmed and worried. Tell me about why you're feeling overwhelmed and worried. Well, I feel overwhelmed because I know what we want to do. And I know that's a big ask, but I'm not sure if I know how to articulate this to my team so that they'll really get it and they'll want to do it. So I'm worried about that. Boom. Right? He just
Nugget.
spelled out exactly what she
Yeah.
needed to go into next. Right? Sure, she explained the concept. Sure, everybody got it on a very high level, cognitive level, and they knew they had to do it. But the feelings behind it
Mm-hmm.
showed her, okay, we need to dig into this, because if the team doesn't emotionally buy into this big ask, we'll never
Mm-hmm.
get there. Right.
Exactly.
So it was
Yeah.
a really cool, and she's, since then has become really well known within the organization to be like, how do you feel about that? And people
Mm-hmm.
are ready for that question. So they're thinking about it and they're digging in. And it didn't make her seem soft or weak. It made her seem intuitive and intelligent. Right.
Right.
And
And
also
strategic.
showed them that she cared. She gave a shit about what they felt.
Yeah.
Right. That's huge. Right. So
Well,
it
and
was
think
pretty
about
cool,
if
pretty
leadership
powerful.
is, yeah, and like think about if leadership's feeling that way, how do you think the team's going to feel? So if
Right.
one single person it's easier to address that issue with the one person that's in the room right now than to take it to your team of 6 or 10 people. And then you have 10 people who feel that way and you're like, "Holy shit, me too. How do I even handle that?" Now what? Now there's 11 of us who feel this way, including the leader. How am I going to help them when I can't even help myself?
Exactly. And the fact that the fact that that person that was senior to you asked how you felt about it, and
Mm.
then was there and really, really dove into that and was like, no, tell me how you feel about it. I need to know the feelings so that we can make those all right. Right. Was just asking that one time opened it up so that other people could be like, I get what you're saying. I don't know how I feel about it,
Mm.
which is usually where the barrier comes in. Right. So they opened it up so that they could have deeper conversations with her, and that they knew she would listen, and they knew that they could break them down. And then, people started to buy into concepts so much faster and more whole, like that wholehearted buy-in. And then moving towards that purpose and the path was so much easier. Right.
Yeah, and then like the nice thing about that too is that people are, like we've been saying this whole time, we're motivated by our emotions, we're guided by our emotions whether we want to admit they exist or not. And a lot of times when we start feeling heard, all of a sudden the floodgates open, and like you said, like that permission gate is now open. Now people are actually interested in finding resolutions, because now
Yeah.
they know they don't have to hide when there's a problem. Whether the problem is they don't know what to do in that situation, like they're feeling overwhelmed or they feel uncertain or they feel like they need some training or something around that. Now they know, well, if I feel that way, I can say something. So that person's less likely to drop the ball, to make a big mistake, or even to hold the team back, because now you've opened up the realm of emotion within your team so that we can all be human, and now we're problem solving as opposed to sitting in our little individual pockets and kind of bumping up against each other sometimes, and sometimes it works and then sometimes it doesn't, and nobody knows why when it doesn't.
Yeah. 100%. I love that.